So welcome again to Sturgeon Moon Poetry. This is our second year of Sturgeon Moon Poetry, and just by way of explanation, if this is your first time, we selected the name Sturgeon Moon because the Sturgeon Moon is a rare moon. It is the month of August, and Native Americans discovered that the fish would come to the top, mainly the sturgeon, during that full moon. And of the 29 species of sturgeon, about 23 of them are endangered. And so several of us thought it was an appropriate name for this reading series. While poetry is a big tent, and we are open to all styles and all fashions of poetry, we're particularly interested in lyrical narrative poetry. And we try to raise that up and highlight it because in today's poetry world, it seems that there might be less and less lyrical narrative poetry as other forms are coming to the front. So we're really excited today to have a couple of wonderful readers to feature. And then following that, we'll have a brief open mic, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. So I'm Terry Lucas, and I'm the host and curator of Sturgeon Moon, and I am so happy to introduce our featured readers. Today, our first featured reader is Suzanne Frischkorn, and she's the author of 4 poetry books, most recently Whipsaw from Anhinga Press 2024, and 5 chapbooks. She is the recipient of the Writers Center Emerging Writers Fellowship for her book, Lit Windowpane, which is the Aldrich Poetry Award for her chapbook, Springtide, selected by Mary Oliver, a Connecticut Individual Artist Fellowship, and a Swim Residency Award at the Betsy. Her poems have recently appeared or are forthcoming in Denver Quarterly, Latino Poetry, a Library of America Anthology, North American Review, Salamander, and South Dakota Review. She is an editor at Poetry is Currency and an assistant poetry editor for terrain.org, where she also serves on the editorial board. And as we go through the readings, both of our featured poets today will have posted links on the chat as to where you may purchase their books. So let's give a great welcome to Suzanne Frischkorn.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to see so many people out for poetry today. And I'm so excited to be reading with Dorinda and celebrating her new debut book. And thank you very much, Terry, for coordinating all of this with the ferry and the bus and the trains and planes and all of that. I appreciate it. Still getting it to come off on time. I'm going to be reading from Whipsaw, as Terry said. Whipsaw is a book that I wrote between the years of 2016 and 2020. So that'll give you an idea of some of the themes in the book. And it was also a time when I lived in close proximity to a forest. So there's a lot of the forest in this book as well. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I'm going to begin with a poem that I wrote right after the results of the 2016 election. Dear America, it's time to teach my daughter how to shoot an arrow, how to use a knife, how to hit the center of a target. It's bloody work, but she should know. It's time to teach her how to win a debate while applying lipstick without a mirror, and how to hold her keys between her fingers in a parking lot. It's time for her to hit the weight room, join the cross-country team, cast a spell literally and figuratively. And it's time for her to develop telekinesis and clairvoyance. It's time she knows to never leave her drink unattended, never drink on an empty stomach, never drink before her period. And maybe what I mean to say is never drink alcohol, period. It's time to learn that one day She might switch grocery stores because a guy on staff there gives her the creeps. And even if it's less convenient to travel across town, it's always best to trust her intuition. It's time to teach her that when a grown man stares at her new breasts, she is not the one who should feel ashamed. America, she's her mother's daughter. She's got this. Oh, I love the snaps. I wrote this poem for the orca Telequa. I think in 2018, she lost one of her calves and she was mourning, and we all watched it live. Telequa. She carries her grief. She nudges it to the surface for weeks. And when the grief weighs her down, her sister whales carry her grief for her. Women carry grief too, in their pockets. Their grief is like sea glass or stones or loose change. Mourning, fox or deer or coyote cut through our lawn. They still and turn to look at me while I smoke on the porch. Telequa doesn't know that I see her, that I carry her grief in my pocket. Telequa, I carry it. I carry it, I carry it, I carry it. I too love oblivion. We are in the changing days, crisp mornings and afternoon swelter visions that summer is still here. The forest floor, leaves, branches, scat, soil. A hint of yellow appears now and then, here and there, along the roads. Goldenrod pushes us towards autumn with promises of richness. Something I can't name blooms alongside it and promises royalty. This cold snap brings the color for leaves to achieve greatness before dying. The screaming you hear in the deepest night is not a woman being dismembered. It's the fisher cat, who's not really a cat, but a carnivorous weasel. He's here to remind you the forest is beautiful dark. It's beautiful dangerous. Every morning this summer, the cicadas hum the song, "You are outnumbered." Very cheerful book. I don't know if you noticed. When I lived in Connecticut, I think I mentioned this to others. When I lived in Connecticut, I lived about 15 minutes from Keith Richards' Connecticut estate. I did not live in an estate. We had a little converted barn house, little cow barn, but we shared a forest. And I wrote this after reading his autobiography. It was called Life. So, Keith Richards, I was with you. I was with you, Keith Richards, even when you rhapsodized about those sweet honeys who fed you and warmed you on the road with their soft bodies. Those were different times, and I forgive you. Keith Richards, I believe you about Mick Jagger. Frontmen always get ahead of themselves. Keith Richards, I too only ingested high-quality pharmaceutical-grade Coke and wouldn't touch what passes for euphoria on the streets today. Keith Richards, I was with you like a friend as you presented the best version of Keith. May I call you Keith? I was with you all the way until you opened your garden gate and stepped into my primeval forest, that happy hunting ground of the Iroquois. The old Indian burial ground turned nature preserve backing up to your house. I was with you, Keith Richards, and the deep lake and the waterfall. Keith Richards, I stood apart from you when you and George decide to catch fish named Oscars, so big and so tasty. I was off to the side when instead you caught the mythical snapping turtle, often spoken of, seldom seen, green and slimy. It lumbers out of the lake with your fish. A prehistoric creature, its mouth about to pop and snap. You drop your rod, pick up a rock, and crack the turtle on its shell. It sinks into the lake, immense, ancient, last seen by the Iroquois. And that is where I left you, Keith Richards. The next poem I'm going to read is called Cops, but it's cops as in a stand of trees. When Congress slipped a note to sell off federal lands, to deforest, to develop, and to cut enlightenment from the American landscape, I began to memorize definitions for the words copse, gully, rill, rivulet, orchard, maple, oak, linden. A place in Antarctica hoards every seed on this planet underground for the apocalypse. Last night, a tree fell in the windstorm. The crack sounded like a split in the universe. It fell in the road and blocked traffic like a protest. This morning, the town came and ground it down to stump. It's still windy. The trees sway outside my windows, rendering their own march, waving, waving, we are here. We are over here. This next poem I remember writing right after the Christine Blasey Ford testimony. I had a daughter when this was going on who was, I think, a junior in high school. She was looking at colleges, and her testimony brought so many horrible, triggering memories from being in high school in the 80s. It's called Nocturne. The coyotes create an auditory fence. Two rowdy boys sound like a pack, and some beings are happy tonight. What scent do they catch? Their howls echo yowls. This is their territory. It must have some view, not like the view of the old cape on the cliff, its shingles weathered driftwood gray. That view, a stream of exhaust, trucks, cars. On a clear day, you can gaze at the strip mall. The view here tonight is the glow of my cigarette, like the most boring firefly moving up and down, never zip, no zag. The coyotes swallow the sounds of the forest, overtake it like frat boys pick off freshman girls. Once a star of her class, now a chime in the distance. Forest, early autumn. I fix on the overstory, how the trees slip their reds and yellows on bit by bit. Once I was a detail in the understory. I bloomed in shade like some weird poisonous plant, and also the victor of a fable written before I was conceived, before I germinated in the scat that covered the whole of my childhood. Why did my father strive to drag me back to Hades at twilight on Wednesday night? I want to write about the forest, the way leaves change in a seductive slow dance in early autumn. I want to explore root systems, how parent trees guide nutrients to their sapling. I want to tell you trees grow close to each other over great distance and many years. He tried to drown me in his bottle of sorrows. He keeps it by his side while he ticks columns of who wronged him, how, and why. Trauma is delicate. 20 years can pass, and like a hair trigger pistol, someone explodes. Someone says, enough. Terry, how much time do I have? Do you know? I'm good.
You have about 6
Whatever.
minutes.
6 minutes? Okay. I think I'm gonna finish up with these last two for you guys. I wrote this next poem after seeing this painting at the Whitney Museum. I found it arresting and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's called Winter Fields, 1942, Andrew Wyeth. To view winter fields is to feel your face pressed in the ground. The grass lace-like, the black crow, the distant trees and structures on the horizon focus to distort, and the chokecherries glow, beacon clues brighter for a background of blue-black feathers. The worm's eye view. Some say the crow is frozen, rigor mortis set on dead landscape. I swear it's poisoned. Wyeth's light makes chokecherries look at least half ripe. Even a clever crow, a very hungry, clever crow would be duped. The crow, at best, is resting. If crows rest in line with horizon, his claws crossed. I know this call of winter, how the body longs to lie down. And the last poem I'm going to read is Doe. I heard once that every poet has a Doe poem, and this one is mine. Doe. Caught between stumble and rise, the doe young, the day entering twilight. We drive north, others south, cars driving home in the corridor of woods. Her struggle to right herself loops like a reel. It was that fey time, how her heart must reel when she realizes she's left forest. The road's vibration like the scrape of metal on teeth for her hooves, wood scent within reach. She is righting herself as cars speed past her, speed toward her in that dangerous time, twilight. The refraction and scatter of sun rays, when the sun slips below horizon, another reel winds in another day. Time of most fatal car accidents. Tired drivers, blinded by sun on the road. Her natural grace abandoned her. She favors her left side, the doe in the midst of righting herself, her eyes on the woods. The fae hold their breath. Sunlight refracts, the sun edges horizon, twilight, and she stumbled. She is half rising. The doe favors her left side in the midst of rising. This reel loops and loops all evening. Her leg, the struggle in the road I drove past, tired, heading home. Other cars, other drivers, tired, driving north, driving south. Cars on pavement in a corridor of woods, and she caught in the middle with shattered sun rays and the horizon at twilight. Her heart, my heart, reels. In my rearview mirror, the doe. I drove past the doe after she stumbles, and as the cars rush towards her, and like a reel that breaks, I never learn if she returns to the woods. She is forever caught, half rising at twilight in the middle of the road. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Suzanne. And let's acknowledge Suzanne and thank her for her reading. Much appreciation. And I will remind everyone that if you look on chat under her name, we have bookshop.org where you may purchase her latest book, Whipsaw. And we thank you again very much, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thank you all.
And now we have reading for us our featured reader, Dorinda Wegener. And Suzanne, I loved listening to you read. I had not heard you read prior to this. Um, Dorinda, however, I've heard read several times because Dorinda and I attended the same MFA program at New England College, as there are other folks here from that program, both teachers, former teachers, and fellow students. So
Yeah.
I'll acknowledge them at some point too. So it's been a delight to wait for Dorinda Wegener's first full-length collection. I remember saying, I don't want to embarrass you, Dorinda, but I remember saying when we were students that of all of us, she'll probably be the first one to get a Pulitzer Prize. And she used to just shake her head like she's shaking her head now. But I think Dorinda's work for me is a good example for a lot of us poets of the wisdom of waiting to publish. Okay? Because so many times poets will rush to publish. And I know some of my poems that have been published, every time I read them, I mentally edit them, right? And read them just a little bit differently. I don't know if Dorinda will do that in the coming years because she's been editing them and sending them out for about 18 years, right? And it's a delight that to see her poems finally in a collection. So I'm so happy she's reading today. Dorinda Wegener was selected as a Poets and Writers 2024 Get the Word Out Poetry cohort participant, and her debut collection, Four Fields, was just recently published by Trail House Press in July of 2024. Okay, you're going to help me with this one. She is a paranesthesia certified registered nurse in Richmond, Virginia, who holds an MFA in poetry from New England College, where she was a Joel Oppenheimer Award recipient. Wegener has had work published in many journals, including Indiana Review, Thrush, Hunger Mountain Review, Hayden's Ferry Review, Berkeley Poetry Review, as well as within Poet Showcase, an anthology of New Hampshire poets from Hobblebush Books, and Lingering in the Margins, a River City Poets Anthology, Chop Suey Books. And again, the link in chat is where you may purchase her book from Trail House Press. Let's give a great welcome to Dorinda Wegener.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me okay? All right, cool. First off, Suzanne, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, for your wonderful words, for Whipsaw, which is incredible. I'm honored and humbled that I get to hang out with you, so thanks. And also I see many a familiar face here, so thanks, guys, for showing up. And this is my book. I'm going to start my timer. And I'm reading a different set today. I'm home. I'm back in New Hampshire. So I'm going to read some of the farm poems, but I'm going to start off with a couple of my favorites that I always read. So I write you with the intention of amendment. Because you were a courtberry basket filled with silver bells, and I was the dried carrion carried by crows. Because you were a fig tree with new roots, and I a garden of snakes, because you were a purse of gold coins, the last land of lands. I have palmed this prayer in my pocket till it turned to stone, and you housed this stone in your heart until it turned to hard wood. I have orphaned myself from the word, mother. The ox-eye daisies pass to stiff asters as the bees jump rabbit-foot clover cone to cone. Stitching the season late is how I finished the family sampler. To cover the next generation's hope chest, I need to scavenge the mother-daughter sentiment from years of burnt eggs and runny oat, for I am done arguing over tongues and the scorn of steel wool. Matriarch of the vine which scurries with myths unseen, we have nursed through hunger's red music. I create a new name from your metronym and now understand. Mama, I write you with the intention of amendment, with thrift to thrive penances, green as forgiveness, trepid as love. Four fields. It's in 4 parts, I'll just pause. Every winter home to the farm taken by marsh thistle and wineberry. At the silo door, the family eidolon absolves me my stock paper and indelible ink. A lifeline born from the tureen of their eyes. Cold soup, skinned. My sister is always a rabbit, my other a grizzly. I am a black swan nested. Survival is the dream of a cicada mid-air, a mass for the lost moon. Here's the first of 40 days, the crop rent by runnels in sidereal time. Mother in early spring for her spade, riven by rocks, is found clay-clad and weeping. What is blood among blood? What are locusts from the hands of God? In his Sunday suit, the oldest son remains plot-side, my brother. He is music not of the hand. He is our father's headstone and glass decanter, raised to the ergot sheaves, rose to the lip of the wind. And now I'm going to head into poems that I usually don't read. And I hope they don't disappoint you, but I'm just excited to be back in the mountains and farmland, so attending. Again, the wind burns up the barn side and snow flames off the roof. Our men have gone uphill, all leather gloves, knives, and boiling water borne from the well to wrought iron warming on the wood. Inside, women coil in coats. We stand, our bodies touch. We eat blood oranges until our tongues swell. In the morning, all animal stalls are empty. Because of love, we hide. Rinds like hunger in our gardens. Wait by gates to receive the halos of mist lifting from pines. Homestead. The wind tugs the sweet gale, and the pepper bush bobs in the thicket. Ice thaws in the brook out back, mud fossil footprints where the child ran, learnt the ways of serpent and bee. These were my fields. March bog where I nursed the lack of barn swallows nested in rafters away. Why does winter return me to old gray snow, white paint ill and peeling? They have remodeled the front barn and the silo clean gone. Sentimentality, my small enchanter's nightshade, you cliff seep my bones, leave me, these were my fields. The jolt April breeze disturbs. There should be no fear in this plot. I am no longer that wild button bush. So I'm going to move away from the farm, but I'm going to stay with the trend of, gosh, I'm reading very fast. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to stay with the trend of reading poems that usually I just keep pretty intimate. Section 4 of the book is on my father. Being a nurse, you end up caring for your patients, but you also end up caring for your parents as they fade. And I lost my dad to dementia. And section 4 of the book deals with his deterioration and just trying to come to amends with that. So the next poems are going to be for my dad. I have a full sequence in section 4, of poems about various animals. I'm going to read the one with snakes and the one with raccoons. So, a poem for my father on snakes. Just now, a sudden tang of smoke. Though no one in this house has burned in a while, I am having a hard time. This morn, suited in its best ash, its length mastered that of the longboards, your shadow, getting done the things it needs to get done. I think the sound of scales passing through the underbrush fathers a different voice than the passing of a paw. The spirit around the cold blood has a heft heavier than air weighted with my own associations, like something before, ancient, someone outside of the right hand, like a breathtaking hymn cast out. And this is the closest I've ever gotten to a narrative poem, guys, right here. This is a poem for my father on raccoons. All right, here we go. For the past 3 days, I have watched the raccoon bloat from the sun on the side of the road. Its fur, a matted ferrous brown, has formed into spires which are slowly lifting skyward, arched by the taut skin beneath like an arrow fletched to shaft and then pulled up to an archer's shoulder, keen eye, a constellation of potential energy, not wasted like these kinetic crows, who swoop low and lower still, but we are not to speak of corvids circling in poems or their carrying, but what of that we carry? What are you doing in your own house? Papa, a word I never called you. Stacking your boxes of other families' photos gathered from the dumps still good shed or torn from magazines. On Monday, you move the boxes against the opposite wall. On Tuesday, you move them back. On Wednesday, you move the boxes against the opposite wall. Such commotion. How you went to school with all of them. And the dust of disease settles on your record player, your oak furniture, your colorful ceramics like the painted egg with gold clasp you gave your granddaughter, who carried and cared for it as Fabergé. How she drew a smiley face and red marker on the cotton bowl we picked last vacation. She named the tuft Fred, and it lived in the egg for years. But there's no need for this frivolity of birds and how they flock or myths, because all of this is fancy for how your blood seeped across plasma membranes, every cell ground down to dementia, a diffusion you could not control, memories overwritten or replaced, your boxes remain, one broken link in your amino acid chain, one poorly folded protein unchaperoned. These are the facts, Papa. I do believe in bellomancy, our feathered lots tossed to ether, their trajectory little known. And I hope the DOT will pick up the raccoon before rupture, as your cells, from all this heat. Okay. A poem absent of animals for my father. I am waiting for my father to return to the body of my father, the man, that was in his body, looking like my father, to return to this body, his body, to return the man my father looks like, rightly, to his body. I am waiting for the body of my father to return, the man my father was. All of this is to say. the body in the chair next to mine, and the man in the chair next to me, in the body. That is my father, and is not anything of my father. In this body, I grieve. He is still alive. And two-poem warning, one more sad one, and then something a little lighter, perhaps, to end with. And again, guys, thank you so much. This means the world to me, so thank you. And thank you for being open to an intimate reading, because usually, yeah, I don't, well, anyway. The speed of light does not follow any acceptable form of logic. My father is outside the locked ward, and my sister. Both my sisters and my brother. Our father keeps his coat on at all times. My father is in a world where I am his mother. My husband is the man from the laundromat, and my brother-in-law is the man from the bank. The light we can see in tonight's skies from stars already left. The light we can see and the coat. The nurse at the locked ward will quickly jump and run the length of their stations to sound the alarm. When my father left this world, he stayed in this world. He will not be in this world again. Everyone wants him to be locked in the ward with his coat except for him. Our father is unhappy here. Father wants to be folded into a neat, tight triangle of stars. The light we can see. It is tired. It has traveled a very long way. Wants to come in and remove its coat. And then this one, I'm very excited to share with you guys because Steven is here. And ages ago, I had a draft and I was never going to give up on this draft. And I carried it around with me and it transferred notebook to notebook to notebook. And I still have Steven's original notes on the paper. And I transferred, you should see the paper now. I wish I had it. It's well worn. And it finally came together after so many years. So thank you, Steven. This is called The Threshing Floor, and it's in 4 parts. I'll just pause. Goats were pouring forth their pure milk. Anemones were piercing the road's ribs. Lice were biting the seers gathered in gawk. Almonds were blanching in bowls of cure. Teeth were breaking gum or falling out. Breath was fouling close to necks to ears. Tongues were separating themselves. Houses were massing their shadows' length. Letters were uniting into Lenten plots. Who do you believe me to be is not the same as who do you say that I am. A gravel path raked by death dragging is the same as a bloom on the staff of life. Wheatgrass covers the field where once switchblade and broom sage grew, big and little blue stem, wild rye. The word preserve in late Latin means to keep in advance of. Coming rose, soft red winter, your brother, an ancient grain, our ancestors, roots not native to this soil. The devil hath desired to sift us as wheat. Tillers and main stem cut down, sickled and scythed and reaper binder, the wheat flail working loose the berries, the wind a whistle through the straw as the sparrow shrieks. This land, before fallow field or cultivated crop, before stolen and bloodshed, before we forced our own history upon it, before we faithfully answered, who do you believe me to be? Before our weaknesses were revealed in the winnowing and we falsely witnessed, who do you say that I am? Let us relearn Latin. Relearn as in conserve. to keep together. May the land take us to breast. May the land carry us under her arm as if we were omers of wheat to sieve and knead into a rough-hewn bowl. May the land leave us out to prove. May we rise together by grace. Thanks, guys. That's my reading. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dorinda.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's give both Suzanne and Dorinda another round of applause and thank them both for
Thank
coming
you,
today
Suzanne.
and reading their wonderful poetry. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. Yes, and don't forget that there are links in the chat as to how to purchase their books, amazing books. So please do that. And yeah, we look forward. Dorinda, I have a message in my chat. And so just read it silently and you can respond to me however you wish about that after the open mic, okay? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, wonderful. Thank you everyone for attending. And as is a tradition here at Sturgeon Moon Poetry, we do have an open mic. I usually limit it to no more than 10. This particular reading, we have 6 poets. And so I'm allowing the poets to read 2 poems, no more than hopefully around 2 pages of poems. And I think we'll still come in under our 12 to 15 minutes of the open mic. And so I'm going to read the names of the folks that are open mic. And if I've promised you that you would read at this reading at the open mic and I leave your name off, please let me know and I will add your name, okay? So I have, and this is the order I would like for them to read, Steven Riel, and I have Dorothy Ward, I have Sarmat Misikov, I have Patricia McMillen, Rick Pearson, and Catharine Clark-Sayles. Have I committed to anyone else to read at this open reading who is here? If I have, please speak up and I will add your name. Okay, great. So I'm going to ask Steven Riel, who is another MFA poetry graduate from New England College, if he would read for us, please.
Sure. Thank you, Terry. If you hear pipes and drums, there's a Scottish music festival across the river, which is why I've chosen this poem, Tooth by Jowl, which is said at Robert Burns's cottage in Scotland. No means for a barn, one roof sheltered them all right by. Just past a threshold, 4 steps from the hearth, a kid goat kept butting his nanny's teats. Even with the yearling stall piously mucked out, its upchuck soaked into straw, only a wattled wall and latch away from bread crusts turned on a toasting fork. Though hand-me-down boots were always kicked off at the rag rug due to the hover of mothering, the scoured pot couldn't deny it made broth from a jawbone that yesternight framed bleats burrowing the Burns's sleep from the unheated side. Thickening noontime soup, leeks sliced from roots that curled into garden dirt moments before. Shallot heart, more than good enough to mince, though it was just sheathed in a rotten layer. And this one's called Incubation of a Star, and I think some of you might recognize who's being described. Incubation of a Star. She plants herself before a full-length Brooklyn mirror, knocks emas away her mother's makeup, tests countless ploys to coax the front row's gaze anywhere, but here she honks, there she blows, big beak, anywhere. but arms so scrawny her Meshuggah mama shipped her off to health camp for fattening at age 5. In the waist-up audition above their bathroom vanity, she cat-eyes eyeliner angles, critiques collarbone and earlobes 4 or 5 hours a day, cultivates the longest red fingernails ever to read apart, favors offbeat necklines, feathery earrings, slanted hats. When catcalls bring out the genius in her drag queen pals, she marks their technique, drops a letter from her forgettable forename, practices a collection of odd gestures till they're hers, till she debuts on Broadway with "Oh, what a voice," and "Oi, what a schnoz," we have to applaud.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Always good to hear you read. Next, I would like to ask Dorothy Wall if she would read a couple of poems for us. Dorothy?
Thank you. And I just want to say to both Dorinda and Suzanne, that was inspiring. It really, very moving and just, gets the juices flowing. Lovely. This first poem is Garden Poem for Earth Day. Evenings, pulling crabgrass, foxtails, chickweed, dandelion, we're stubborn as they are. We've installed new saplings, ginkgo, Chinese pistache, set out marigolds, black-eyed Susans, making of our little square an enticement. As a giant, you'd miss it. As a bee, you'd know its precise coordinates. Dance the bee line to our plot, a dot on a nectar map in a bee's tiny head. We have visitors we've never met that dive bomb in and stay till they're sated. The best way to run a place, we've learned. If you want your children to return, you must let them know they're wanted. Come feast, our rosemary says. Our pollen sticky daylily opening its buffet to butterflies on the run. All we've done, whether it's enough, we know it isn't. But we love the air sliced with buzzing. Here, have a sip. When they arrive, we always spread our blanket, offer our best wine. And this one is called Up There. Up there. I have enough mess to contend with down here. Sour sponges and closets you don't want to open. Up there, objects whiz by, the smallest, 1 millimeter to 1 centimeter, 130 million pieces. The largest, the International Space Station, just one. 8,261 satellites, of which only 4,852 are being used, but why bother with cleanup? Why open the capsule labeled future disaster if it isn't yet shooting flames or exuding the stench of rot and doom? The occasional searing plunge earthward, mostly mopped up by fire and water, or the convenient oceanic pole of inaccessibility, that bullseye in the Pacific, 1,450 miles from land, that swallows whatever the satellite mission team aims at its maw, sending our contraptions plummeting toward the hapless sea creatures below without a trace of regret, because why not colonize the deep? 9,000 metric tons of junk hissing around our planet at 10 times the speed of a bullet, an obstacle course of such stupefying proportions that in 2012, as space debris shot toward them, the International Space Station crew huddled in their escape vehicles. But hey, at night, I see only the moon, keeping its secrets above it all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorothy. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming today. And next we have Matt Misikov. Would you read for a couple of poems for us, Matt?
Sure, thank you. The first one I'd like to read is called It's Getting Colder. It was getting colder by the lake. The once lit sky too now fades. My sweater's black, but it cannot warm me. I see skaters, bikers, Sparks Marina Park. I see the lake. It's getting colder. It's twilight now. The sun has set, afraid of future and tomorrow and the next step I'm gonna take. The mountain hid the light from me. It's getting colder. Gold is shining over me. A plane just passed above my head. It left a trail, 1, 2, blend into the orange, pink, black, yellow cloud. One tries to reach the moon, but the moon is mine. It's growing darker, colder, colder, cold. The lake just swallowed the lost gold. Birds flew away far from the city lights into the darkness and the night. I want to fly to escape into the place where I'm awake, alive. It's getting colder. No more light, no more light, no more light. And the next one I want to read is called The City of Neon Light. I hear the neon sizzling in the air. It paints the streets my favorite colors. Tonight I'm everything but scared while living through one of the hottest summers. Downtown casinos in green, blue, and red, they project their lights onto constellations. I smile at strangers as I never did, even forget to contemplate my aspirations. The scenery is cinematic, somewhat blurry. This is fully and truly the city of neon light. I go to a market, buy a can of iced soda, and walk with the feeling I'm finally doing all right. I allow myself to explore not only avenues and the Lake of Nevada border, but something that's in my own core. I feel true to myself and everything else is washed away by the water. Something changed, maybe forever. This place made me feel I can get whatever I want. And I was born for this type of weather. I found temporal peace I longed for. While the wind ultimately blew in the unknown direction and the hot air balloons raced far in the morning sky, I've come as close as I possibly could have to the space where a bird as I can finally fly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. And next, we have Patty McMillen.
Thank you. I'm going to read one from my new book that came out in March called Running Wild. If I can find it. Oh dear. Not prepared. Okay, I'll read it. Oh no, here it is. Okay, it's called Like Botox for the Brain. Relax, says the psychiatrist. What's the use of worrying about people as they drink themselves slowly to death? It's none of your business. And who even cares it's Christmas? A season that he knows makes me some combination of sad and ticked off with its noise and commotion, oh, holy nights and little drummer boys racing around in my head after nothing more than a simple trip to Walgreens for dental floss. But this year, it's like all the fights sucked out of me and I can't argue with him. I, who once could argue with anyone about anything, now when I meet an acquaintance on the train platform and he launches his usual tirade of grievances, concealed carry, fluoride, his sinuses, I beam, I pat his arm, I say, good to see you, and walk away. Like a sponge diver in a big copper helmet, I'm on the ocean floor, my emotions forming like air bubbles, expanding so slowly I can identify them and watch them float to the surface. I tell myself this is a new kind of happiness, but maybe it's a substitute for happiness, as napping is a substitute for sleeping at night, and sleeping at night is a substitute for dreaming, and this psychiatrist is a substitute for a friend who listens without being paid. But it's only money, says the psychiatrist. And besides, not every friend gives you drugs, so you can dive deep, hunker down where it's quiet, and let your insane, bloated worries, the ones you've lived with so long, they are like family members, distant half-cousins who moved in after their marriages failed, hover in silence. Through a rasp of air hose, faint echo of silver bells, I can almost hear them pop. And thank you. The second one is unpublished. It's called Paris 2002. Near the Luxembourg Gardens, where couples sit in neat rows on the pelouse autorisée, we sit on a bench dropping coins into the plastic cup held by a boy whose parents play Strangers in the Night, Mom on clarinet, Dad on rhythm egg. You ask me whether I miss my ex-husband. You say you don't miss your late wife, you only miss being young. And I say, what do you mean? Aren't we still young? We take a taxi past the place where Diana was killed. From the news photos, we expected a long white tunnel, but it's a short underpass with white pillars. We wonder if Diana was wearing a seatbelt. We think her bodyguard's lucky to be struck dumb because what is there to say? We visit Karnak, that carnival of cairns, rocks frolicking in lines across the landscape. We eat artisanal crepes, artisanal lavender ice cream cones, French fries rolled in newspaper with mayonnaise. We pee in co-ed toilets, watch birds in poplars, watch a man trying to throw a paper plate like a frisbee. I wait another whole week for you to propose marriage under the Eiffel Tower, and you don't. And though I am one with the world, I also know that after this I'll go back to my real life, my dying father, my dead dog, the bleeding Chicago heat, the hot flashes of perimenopause, with nothing crossed off my bucket list and still no answers to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patty. And next, we'll hear from Rick Pearson. Rick, share a couple of poems with us.
All right, thanks, Terry. Okay, this first one is called Seeds of the Future. The war is over, the humans lost. Now the one-eyed Gargan, head in the clouds, scans the fields at dawn and lets them fall like seeds from its unfeeling grasp, sprinkling naked, bloated corpses of all shapes and sizes, colors and forgotten creeds, strewn across fertile land where fruitless battles were fought and lost, one-sided, alone. Insurmountable odds against the colossi, the machines need to grow seeds for green fuel from the near-extinct species to wage a new war in the stars where the rest of humanity's colonies lie, unawares, for they know nothing of what transpired on their precious planet, oh, so long ago. Okay, the next one I'll read is a new poem, fairly new poem, called March of the Machine Men. They come, slick black and steel, eyes red as centers that hold. One and the same eye does not exist. I don't want to be the same, made of metal, made to obey. Don't turn me to stone, together, walking as one. Hardened heart under the granite galaxy sea, empty, no flesh organs nor skeleton. Faceless and unaroused, an army that moves forever. Those souls stand petrified, Vesuvius alabaster, caught in light of fear, love and joy standing still, ready and waiting for the final annihilation. Taken through that door to nowhere, they return, slick, black and steel. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And our final reader for our open mic is Catharine Clark-Sayles.
Thank you. This has been a really, really wonderful reading. I've enjoyed all the work. These are both two new ones. Leaky boat. Is the certainty of bad news better than the drift of a leaky boat body as water rises to ankles and gunnels settle into waves? The vague unease, something wrong, but how wrong? How near? Can I manage with bailing and some chewing gum for holes? Or is it time to sing, Nearer, my God, to thee, stand resolutely at the bow? My doctors drop terrifying tidbits, assume that since I am a member of their club, I will have the grace to not show any messiness. But as a member of the club, I've seen how names of disease and bodies collide into deaths and half-deaths, sometimes worse. Each twirl of the whirlpool one stage down, and I am spinning. Solitude. A line of clouds unzips faded denim sky to a throat of ruffled white. Against the horizon, clouds send a Morse of dot, dash, dash, dot, spells W and E, we to my solitude. I grow strange with silence, days since I've used my voice, not even speaking to myself as hunger grows for another voice, a touch. My doctor sends an email questionnaire asking for the number of loneliness, unaware of irony in click the box reply. The crow who likes peanuts from the portrayal isn't speaking to me. For weeks, his harsh caw has brought me bearing handfuls of nuts, which he and his family carry away with noisy commentary. Now just him, and I wonder where the others are and what has stilled his voice. Pink roses climb the rail in profusion. Their gentle scent drifts, calling bees to keep me company. The dictionary of flowers says grace and admiration. I clip a few for a vase and send myself a message.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank everyone. We're going to give everyone a round of applause, including our open mic readers. Let's give each other a round of applause for this wonderful celebration of poetry today. And our featured readers, Suzanne Frischkorn and Dorinda Wegener. And we are so pleased that you were here and read for us today. A couple of announcements on my part, and then if you have an announcement, any announcements, I'd love to hear from you. Number one is any of you who are here reading an open mic, or if you didn't read, and if you have a book or if you have recent work in a journal, please feel free to put it on the chat, okay, a link to how we can find your work, because I really love to support all poets who are working hard and turning out work. So please do that. And then the other thing is that we do have with us Ken and Liz Weir, who will be the featured readers on the 31st of August for Sturgeon Moon Poetry. Ken, would you unmute and turn on your video so we can see who you are? Just say a couple of words so we can say hi and meet you before next month.
Ken had to leave.
Oh, Ken had to leave. Okay, hi Liz.
He was here for most of it.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Ken and I are very excited about reading next week. Probably unusual, our husband and wife team.
Yes.
But we think it'll be fun.
Yes.
And we look forward to seeing who will be the other readers with us.
Right.
And I enjoyed today's reading very much.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Liz. Good to have you and Ken both with us. And I might just mention too that I think most of you have received an email from me that Ken has a recent book published entitled What Do You Think? And he is willing to send you a free copy if you're willing to write a sentence or two on Amazon by way of review. And if any of you have a book you'd like to trade with him, he's willing to write a review on Amazon as well. So let's see what Liz, I don't have his email. Could we post his email here on chat real quick?
Let me get my telephone. You chat on. Let me find my.
Okay, very good, very good. Dorinda, did you get my message? I can't hear you.
I saw it, yes.
Are you willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, I've requested a poem and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to put her on the spot in public, but I utilized one of her poems from Four Fields in a poetry workshop that I do. And I read it and some of the workshop attendees are here. And I'm sure you can read it infinitely better than I. So I was hoping that you would read it for us.
Sure.
Would you do that now?
Yeah, you want me to do it now?
Yes.
Okay. It's called In the Deep, Deep Woods on a Dark, Dark Night.
Okay.
The weight of stratification was pure. Older boys and I with want. They would smile, then cuff the back of my head. I would smile, then hold excitement still. Truth being, I loved river grass, with its gloom like awns and combs. But thirst came quick one south. I couldn't scale the rock wall, tennis shoe soles too wet. The skin on my knees tore the penned beginning. I smelt the blood. Fee, fi, fo, fum. He was taller than the rest, gangly and pickerel ugly. I cannot write what was lost near the Black Lake. What swords? All I know is he turned and woke to love's first kiss. When done, he lifted me above moss and fern, button eyes, carried me home past the other boys, bandaged both knees. Happily ever I schooled in silence, then forgetfulness. At recess, I would catch him, catch me, at play like a child. He would stare, I would stare after, once upon a time. I was the milk girl, he the milk boy. In the cafeteria, we would happen upon each other, hands over the same blue and white half pint. In the beginning, I was wonder and Eros, had long arms, which wrapped around me twofold. Now I am water reed. Now I unbutton my alphabet, all I's and O's.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that ad hoc reading. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Usually
Okay.
don't read that one, so.
Okay. And Liz, I did find Ken's email and I just posted it.
Very
So
good.
if any of you would like to receive a copy of Ken's book, the email is up there, weirx002@umn.edu. So that's great. Does anyone else have any other announcements, readings that they are going to be giving coming up, or any publications forthcoming from anyone? Okay,
I
wonderful.
just had a poem taken by After Hours. I don't know if people follow After Hours. It's out of
Yeah.
Chicago.
Fantastic.
So
Is
it'll
that
be in
the,
this
is
material.
that the anthology that's coming out this fall?
No,
Oh,
it's a
After Hours. No, yes.
After Hours magazine. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes, Stephen?
I have a poem coming out in this anthology called Massachusetts Bards 2024. And unfortunately, the reading will be in Worcester, Massachusetts on a different night than when Dorinda's reading there.
Oh, no. Well, thanks for sharing that and congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for reading, for attending, for writing poetry, for being a reader of poetry. So have a wonderful month. We'll see you on August 31st. You'll be hearing more about that. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And let's give a big round of applause again to all of our featured readers and open micers. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Well.
Dorinda,
Yes.
you're
I-
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah? Did I do
Beautiful.
okay?
Yeah,
Incredible.
you're a terrific reader. Both of you are
Your
terrific readers.
poems were also really powerful and beautiful. I'm so happy and honored that you invited me to read with you. So
Well,
thank
I'm
you.
so glad to meet you and
Thank you.
hear your
Terry.
work and hear your work. I love expanding the poetry community. I really do.
I think our books talk to each other too.
They do, because I was like, don't go off set, don't go off.
Uh-huh.
Like even the conversations with the poems after the election. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got one of those too. I was just like, oh man.
Beautiful. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank
thank
This is
you.
a beautiful community you have built too.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
All
Have a
right,
great
guys.
weekend, you guys.
You as well.
Bye.
And Dorinda, safe
Bye.
travels.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
Okay, definitely. All right.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care. Bye-bye.